Delay. I'm a public health specialist in the World Bank. I work in the regional surveillance and medicine and support SCDC and National Week. So, the capacity surveillance, preparedness and response. Thank you.
Good morning, Ministers. My name is Mahazia Suleiman, Executive Director, News Voice of Nigeria, representing the Director General of Voice of Nigeria.
We'll have the welcome address.
Okay.
And Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Health.
The Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Asage Henry, Minister of State for Health, Dr. Moba, the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, representative of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Transportation, country of the WHO, other head of government agencies are present. Good morning. First, let's start with the apologies. We should have started this meeting at 10 o'clock, but the minister had to address a press briefing at the headquarters of the ministry. That's why we're starting a bit late. And also the change of venue. Ordinarily, this should have been held in our premises, but because of the large number of people that are invited, we think we should have a better and more convenient hall that can accommodate everybody. So by the way, this is a follow-up meeting to the one earlier held on 31st January. We called that meeting of January just to appraise our level of preparedness and response. And incidentally, just three weeks after, our affairs came to fore. The disease that we've been, the virus that we've been hearing of elsewhere, reared its head in our shows. So this is a follow-up meeting, and it's expanded to include some selected CMDs, that's Chief Medical Directors of teaching officers, where our port of entries are located. So I think without much ado, I will at this level, I give the mic to the Honorable Minister to give on his opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Honorable Minister of State Health, Permanent Secretary Health, representatives of the Ministers of and Permanent Secretaries of Transportation and Foreign Affairs, representatives of multilaterals here present, WHO and the others, and heads of honorable commissioners and their representatives, CMDs, and are all persons who are stakeholders in preventing disease, importation into Nigeria, and responding when it has happened. We have here a public health specialist. We have here officers who are connected with border protection, port health services, customs, immigration. We have here those who are in charge of security in the health sector. And we have here chief medical directors of hospitals, because at the end of the day, the hospitals will be the final point of call for any cases that come up. And many others who are here to advise us and share their experience and their knowledge with us. Also, not the least, we have information and education specialists. Particularly thank the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, who has been extremely supportive in responding to these threats. Without informing the public, without being able to provide guidance, it would have been a lot more difficult for us. And not only has he attended this one personally at short notice, he has also facilitated the opportunities we have had to speak to the public, to reach out to Nigerians at this time when fear and panic are almost gripping the country, and at this time when the mischief makers and pranksters are trying to take over the airwave and pander all kinds of information that is far from the truth. So all of this is indicative of our collective resolve to safeguard the well-being and health of our people, as well as the security of our country. At the first meeting, which took place on the 31st of January, I intimated everybody on the outbreak of the new novel coronavirus, which has now been named as COVID-19, and our plans to prevent its importation into this country and containment measures in the event that it comes into this country. That has come to pass recently. I will come to that very soon. We discussed strategies for prevention of importation of the novel coronavirus and our joint response in the case of identification. At that meeting, we also resolved to play our various roles to ensure smooth implementation of our plans at points of entry, especially the international airports located in Abuja, Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, and Enugu. We have reckoned that the entry of the putative entry of the coronavirus will be by air, but entry by sea or over land border is not totally ruled out, but the possibility is remote. We are informed of measures we are to take to ensure that suspected cases are identified and taken for further investigation. On the 27th of February, a 44-year-old gentleman, a national of Italy, was diagnosed with COVID-19 in Lagos State. It is the first recorded in Nigeria since the first confirmed case was reported in China in January 2020. He arrived at Murtala Mohammed Airport at 10 p.m. on the 24th of February, going to the 25th, aboard an airline that stopped over in Istanbul. He was on the way to his company in Ogun State and spent the night of arrival in Ikeja before proceeding to Ogun on the 25th of February. On the 26th, he presented at the staff clinic of the company in Ogun State, and the doctor who attended to him probably did a malaria test, but we commend his high index of suspicion when he began to have doubts about the diagnosis he was thinking about, and referred this gentleman to the infectious disease hospital in Lagos. And that same night, the night going into the 27th, he was diagnosed positive with COVID-19. The fact that we were not able to isolate the case at the point of entry is not indicative of a failure of the system. It could have happened, but he came in at that point asymptomatic. The fact that we were able to confirm the case in that short period of time also is an indication of our preparedness, and at this time I want to commend not only the physician but all the staff, particularly of the Lagos State Ministry of Health, who were up on their toes. They didn't sleep that night, and I was in touch with them all through the night until the diagnosis was brought around midnight, and the full isolation was immediately instituted. And at that time, I also contacted the leaders of this country to let them know of the development. I'm pleased to inform everybody that the patient is stable, is responding to treatment, his viral load is reducing, and we are happy that he does not appear to have had a particularly bad type of the coronavirus infection. We hope that he will recover fully and be back with his family as soon as possible. Now, what will have been the impact of failure to diagnose this case? The impact will have been a higher spread. and the fact that many people within the company and within the town would have been infected and would now be telling a different story. We are reading daily or seeing daily on television the impact of this outbreak on various countries. There are reports that say that Italy is on the verge of recession just due to this, and China is having very serious economic problems, which are the result of its having to virtually the impact on individuals or the impact on the whole country, on the whole polity. And therefore, this kind of meeting is very important, and anybody who has anything to do with being able to contribute to containing this disease or preventing its importation has a role to play and is seated here today. I want to use the opportunity to assure Nigerians that the Federal Ministry of Health has been strengthening measures to ensure that an outbreak in Nigeria is controlled and contained. A multi-sectoral corona preparedness group led by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has been activated at its Emergency Operations Center, and will work closely with Lagos State health authorities to respond to this case and implement firm control measures. I want to also advise Nigerians to ensure good personal hygiene, wash hands regularly, or use alcohol-based gels and sanitizers, avoid crowded places, limit touching their faces with unwashed hands, and observe respiratory hygiene, such as coughing or sneezing into handkerchiefs or tissue, or if one is at hand, into the elbow, and discarding the used tissue as soon as possible. I want to thank you all for listening, and I shall invite the Minister of Information to make his remarks. After that, representatives of the other ministries who will follow. Yes, representatives, yes, the representing ministers. We will also make remarks before we continue with the rest of the remarks. The Minister of Foreign Affairs is obviously here because this has international relations connotations. Honourable Minister.
Information of the Director General of the National Orientation Agency to come and of the various efforts being made. We in NTA and our colleagues in FRC and VOM and Youth Agency of Nigeria are poised. We have created units in various establishments devoted to the public enlightenment of the containment of the disease. But our efforts can only be successful if we have the right content. So I want to use this opportunity to call on all the stakeholders present here to please give us through the Ministry of Information all the relevant information that needs to be given out to the public. We have the platforms, we have the units, we are ready, and once we have the contents, you can leave the rest to us, and we can assure you that the information will get to the right corners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Garba Abari, Director General National Orientation Agency. There are two aspects, actually, to a situation such as the time we are witnessing today. Now, of course, this is an issue that has now become a global issue. There is the medical aspect of it that requires all the technical competencies. Then there is the sensitization and the advocacy aspects that requires reaching out to tell the people in a situation like this, what do we do? So the most important thing actually is prevention. And the prevention requires information on what to do to prevent, to stop further spread of the disease. And the National Orientation Agency has undertaken to do by developing and crafting messages in so many local languages, which we are sending out to states. Our state directors will be working with the respective state ministries of information to give airtime to respective television and radio stations so that these messages are sent out to the local population in the languages they do understand. There are so many things about the coronavirus that even the very educated actually do not seem to know very well, because of so many conflicting issues that you read about on the social media. But what we try to do is actually to activate and populate all our social media outfits with this information, develop flyers in local languages on what to do, and craft the messages that will send out. Now we are seeking partnership with both the NTA and the Federal Radio Corporation to send out these messages already in Igbo, in Yoruba, in Hausa, in Fulfulde, and in Pidgin. The sensitization and the advocacy messages have been developed and sent out. Our state directors in the states,
provided with the data, we can run hourly updates on the situation, and I think this is very important. Thank you very much.
Morning, honorable ministers. We at the Voice of Nigeria, even before the first case was recorded, we've used the advantage of the languages of broadcast that we have in Nigeria. We have 8 languages, mostly spoken in Africa: English, French, Fulfulde, Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, Arabic, Iso. And so we've been up and good. We've been running jingles in all those languages even before the first case was recorded in Nigeria. Outside that, if you now log on to www.voin.gov.ng, all the major stories there now are on this coronavirus. One from the president calling on Nigerians not to panic, the other one from the Honorable Minister of Health, the other story, Honorable Minister of Information briefing the president, Nigerians, the kind of efforts being made by agencies of the Ministry of Information. And we have a situation room reporter attached to the Ministry of Health every day. The updates that are given on a daily basis, we report. Over the weekend, when the first case was reported, we had to take part of a program Africa on the coronavirus, where and this commentary, the form-based commentary was written and translated in all the 8 languages of broadcast and voice of Nigeria. We will continue to do it, and whatever is coming from the ministry, we will continue to broadcast it in all the languages of broadcast and voice of Nigeria. So we need to share all this. Thank you so much.
From anywhere is that some states are not cooperating with Please, I want to use this opportunity to appeal to all the states to cooperate with anyway. What we've been doing, sir, what we've been doing is that we've developed a lot of jingles and advocacy messages in various languages. But I think from your report, Gombe, Borno, Jigawa, Kano, Osun, Lagos, they are all cooperating with us, but regrettably, certain states have not been doing so. Edo is cooperating with us, yes. Because while we have control of our FRCM platform, we don't have control of the state's platforms. And the state platforms are probably even much more important for this kind of advocacy than the federal government platform. So please, we appeal to all state governments. And this is not political. This is about Nigeria. Secondly, we've also resolved that we would want to be giving updates on all our news bulletins every hour on radio, television. It doesn't need to be anything new, but some people who did not hear it at 10 o'clock might hear it at 11 o'clock. And if there's anything new, please let's be updated. If we get this content, the platforms, I think, will do what they need to do, but we need to appeal once again to our state governors to please lend us their platforms for our jingles and our advocacy programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ministers.
Sit down.
Thank you, Honorable Ministers. In terms of the effort of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, we have been in contact with our missions in China, especially in Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Guangzhou. And they have been providing us with updates, especially in respect of Nigerian citizens that are in China. So far, no Nigerian citizen has tested positive from the report that we have received. And what we get the mission to establish is to establish contact, especially with Nigerian students that are in China. And so far in Wuhan, we have about 46 students, and all of them are in good condition. None of them is infected by the virus, and they are in touch and in contact with our missions all the time to make sure that they don't get into any crisis situation, either as a result of the travel ban around the Wuhan or any other area in China. We are also receiving briefing from the Chinese embassy here in Nigeria. I'm sure the ambassador has also reached out to the ministry, and he has been given update about the effort of the Chinese government in respect of the COVID-19 situation. So far, we have had assurances in terms of the efforts the Chinese government is making, to contain and address this. In respect of the situation in Europe, especially Italy, Nigerian citizens have been advised to avoid travels into COVID-19 confirmed areas. And we have asked them to especially avoid travels for renewal of passports or seeking visas into Europe. So far, we have received an update also from Sweden, where the ambassador expressed concern about the Nigerian citizens who come into Sweden for one thing or the other to the mission. Again, the ministry has established proper engagement with the missions within Nigeria. All missions that are in Nigeria are in contact with the ministry, and we are giving update about the efforts of government, especially for international passengers or citizens that are coming into Nigeria. We have at least received some commendation in respect of the effort of the Ministry of Health and government in general in terms of containing, managing, and making sure that airports. So I think it will be appreciated and encouraged to continue to give their best. Thank you very much.
Honorable Ministers, I represent the Minister of State for Transportation, who is in charge of maritime sector in the country. On our part, we engaged and will continue to engage our agencies under the ministry, especially as Port Authority, to see that they do whatever possible or to do whatever it takes in preventing the importation of this virus through the sea. We continue to engage them, and will continue to brief the Ministry of Health on whatever we do. Another thing that is of utmost importance is that yesterday I had a report that the sanitizers, the prices of sanitizers have gone up in the shops and this thing. And I believe, so I urge the Ministry of Health to, as a matter of urgency, please increase the supplies, especially to MDS, ministry, department, and agencies. This will go a long way in bringing the prices of this very important this thing to the people. Thank you very much indeed. No.
The Minister of Aviation is expected a little later. So before that, I would like the Director of Hotel Services to just go over the minutes for the benefit of those who are not here. The 1st of January to give us the update on the summary of the minutes. Hotel.
Thank you. With your permission, sir, I would an abridged version of the meeting. These are the minutes of the Interministerial Multi-Sectoral Committee for Public Health and Emergency Preparedness in response to the novel coronavirus, now COVID-19 meeting, held on 31st January 2020 at the Federal Ministry of Health. Following the welcome address by the Cabinet Secretary, opening remarks by the Honourable Minister and the Minister of Information who was present, and the Minister of Aviation represented by the Managing Director of FAN, the terms of reference of the meeting were reviewed as follows: to coordinate enhanced country preparedness for prevention of importation of coronavirus and containment if it becomes necessary. Develop and articulate a response plan in the event of the virus being imported into the country, in addition to existing public health and public health measures. Assess and determine the level of stock of equipment, infrastructure, and personnel. Develop a media strategy for communication and reporting. Provide necessary support to the emergency operation centers at federal and state levels, as well as support points of entry emergency preparedness and response program. We then had goodwill messages just like we have today, and the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Public Health Services made presentations. Now, with respect to the presentation assessment tool, due to the traffic flow between Nigeria and Southeast Asia. Then we had a background into the outbreak globally, and the following actions had been taken at the time by the NCDC: issuance and dissemination of public health advisories, strengthened surveillance in collaboration with public health services at the points of entry, diagnostic President Mohammed International Airport Lagos, and Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Abuja, to liaise with FAN, the Federal Airport Authority, to provide an enabling environment to port health services in the dispatch of their mandates. Arrangements for transfer of air travelers must be strengthened, especially in the Federal Capital Territory, Kano and Rivers states, including engagement and training of ambulance technicians and designation of ambulances for COVID-19. Procure and stockpile infection prevention and control supplies and equipment and distribute to all the priority points of entry. Retraining of port health services staff on infection prevention and control and personal protective equipment use. Carry out sensitization sessions on infection prevention, control, and personal protective equipment use to other frontline stakeholders at points of entry. And the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria was to collaborate with port health services to provide two-way radios with access to all stakeholders at the points of entry and ensure all public address systems at the airports air the designed risk communication messages. Now, following these presentations, there were questions, comments, and observations by participants. Sir, I ask permission to skip that because of time. Thank you, sir. And we'll go straight to the end of the meeting. COVID-19 subcommittee. At the end of the meeting, the Honorable Minister of Health nominated selected agencies to constitute a technical subcommittee to come up with an action plan from the meeting. And the stakeholders in this committee, chaired by the Director of Public Health, was the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the Honorable Commissioner of Health, Lagos State, Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, Nigeria Immigration Service, Nigeria Customs Services, Senior Technical Advisor to the Honorable Minister of Health, and ProHealth International. The meeting was brought to a close with a vote of thanks by the Director of Public Health, Federal Ministry of Health. And the technical subcommittee continued with deliberations to tease out an action plan for the meeting proceedings. And the action points are as contained in our minutes and on the screen. So, by way of prevention, screening forms were to be finalized by that committee and then printed by the ministry and distributed to airlines. Health messages on social media and every other media were to be developed, and then there was to be regular review and issuance of health advisories updated as the outbreak evolved. Address workforce issues in Port Health services in terms of numbers, qualification, training and retraining of staff, improve professionalism of Port Health staff so as to enable Port Health services perform better, proper deployment of qualified officers, redeployment and replacement with trainable officers, qualified officers, provision of equipment, additional equipment, thermal scanners, non-contact infrared thermometers, training of all relevant personnel at points of entry, training of frontline agencies, training of frontline agencies at points of entry, stockpiling of commodities and consumables, placed a moratorium on animals coming into the country from Asia, designation of holding and quarantine areas at points of entry, heightened surveillance on arrivals from key routes, and conduct regular risk assessment of the outbreak situation using World Health Organization risk assessment tools, and have a plan of escalation if the need arose. Provide equipment for safe transportation of suspect cases, advocacy to states to designate facilities and safely transport suspect cases. Now, by way of detection, there was work with World Health Organization and other partners to establish capacity for laboratory testing, strengthen specimen transportation system to designated laboratories, ensure designated laboratories have a standard biosafety or biosecurity level, levels 2 or 3, develop a nationwide level program for biosafety and biosecurity, provide certified training for all health personnel involved with handling pathogens of high consequence, work with NCDC and Lagos State Biosecurity Unit for training, engage services of Chinese-speaking translators for interpretation at all points of entry, social mobilization of the community on self-reporting, monitoring of self-quarantine or isolation, develop IEC materials describing signs and symptoms to look out for and numbers to call for distribution to travelers. By way of response, plans were and the state epidemiologists should respond to point of entry referral. State epidemiologists should respond to point of entry referral and provide safe transportation to designated facilities within the state. Develop capacity of designated facilities, designate isolation and treatment facilities nationwide in the 5 states. Inspect health facilities, assess and make destination facilities functional. Training of rapid response team at the state levels through primary health care structures. And there was a list of countermeasures by way of medical, stockpiling, IV fluids, drugs, public awareness and education, security and governance issues, bordering on ethics, research, access, samples, data, and clinical trials, etc. Now, this was the action plan developed immediately after that meeting, sir. Now, we're going into presentations by NCDC on country preparedness and updates on surveillance and points of entry. And we'll get updates on preparedness from the states before we take it all into matters arising with your permission, sir, in order to maximize the time we have. So that's it for the reading of minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. That's very well summarized. Before we go to the next point, is there anything that was omitted that the attendance honorables?
Sorry, I think my own company doesn't have the attendance list. So I think the attendance is thank you. And then I was probably this will probably come on the ministers arising, but I would prefer at least somebody from the ministry to be a committee. You know, that the president to the minister from the technical committee, so that they can be able to follow up on development.
Thank you very much. There that somebody
people from aviation in the meeting.
And also that the attendance list must be developed. So that
Who do you have that guy?
Joe. While we were conversing, the Minister of Aviation came in. Our major partner is in response to this program. We have made our remarks here. I would like if you are ready to make a remark now, so we'll continue.
Okay. Honorable Ministers, Permanent Secretaries, and stakeholders, especially from states and the Federation, gentlemen of the media, good morning. Firstly, I just came in from London this morning, and where is it? I came in from London this morning, and gladly to say that whilst I was in London yesterday, there's an aviation consultant who is part of these to state my travel history and to say my destination, my telephone contact number, and my state of health. And once I came down, everybody was alert, and they took my temperature, and they asked me for my yellow card vaccine, and I showed the yellow card vaccine, and I was informed if not, I could have been given a shot for free at the airport. And also, they showed me, or I witnessed all over the walls. We've got hand sanitizers all over the walls, displayed, and we could clean our hands. And I went in and I felt safe. But when I came back to London, I just walked freely inside. Nobody did anything. I didn't feel no form. There's no hand sanitizer. There's no profiling, and there's no travel history documented of me. So if I had contact, nobody would have been able to detect me. So I think this, for me, it's profound to say that honorable ministers, you've done very well. Stakeholders, especially the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, have done very well. And I say that we showed, or it put to test our ability as a people to prepare against these kind of challenges. And I would say that we feel not satisfied, and this is the way it should be, so that we can do more and ensure that everybody is safe. So I will say to each and every one of you here that your efforts, your labor is not wasted and is noted and recognized, and you are keeping our country safe. And may God keep us safe everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Now, I would like to hand over the microphone to the presenters, and
I believe in the course of their presentations, they will also address some issues that were mentioned during reading of minutes. The first will be Nigeria Center for Disease Control, headed by Dr. Chikwe Kwaso. If you look very well, he is not around here. The reason is that he was one of those who were nominated to join a strong delegation led by the World Health Organization to go to China to take a deep look at the coronavirus problem. They were there. All experts were honored that Nigeria was chosen to join this group.
The top epidemiologists and public health experts in the world, and went into China for 9 days to study the situation. We have seen the draft report of what went on there. But upon his return, he has to follow the protocol we established. 14 days self-isolation in his house. And that's the reason why he's confined at the moment, because you have to do what you preach. And he's not allowed to come out until after 14 days. He has done the test. It's negative. I think he's done it once or twice by now. But nevertheless, I must say.
The Honorable Minister heads up my honest what the Honorable Special President, I thought the Honorable President, I have to clear the protocols. So, the system. I'm here to just give us the update of what has been happening in the last couple of days, as said by the Honorable Minister. Next. So this is the global situation of COVID-19 as at 1st of March 2020. You can see that as at 29th of February 2020, the total laboratory confirmed cases was 85,403, and that is 79,384 was actually coming from China, as we had this morning, the President of the Minister. Then as at yesterday, that is 1st of March 2020, we have 87,137. So there's an increment of about 2%. And when you look at the number of them, as at 29th of February 2020, it was 2,357 deaths in China and 67 deaths outside China. And as at yesterday, there was an increment of 0.6%, where the China is 2,353 and 104 deaths from outside China. So the affected countries are China and the 3 others. So that was as at 29th of February. But as at yesterday, it has increased to 58 others. Next. So this is our strategic for the response. Responding to this in Nigeria, we have identification and collaboration of cases. We maintain capacity to effectively manage the case. And there was coordination and coordination with all Nigerians, as we are actually witnessed this morning during the press briefing. So there was screening of, there was screening at POE, and we still continue to screen. Then we have lab capacity. That is all the POE states. So we are ready to continue training and the training of all the human resources. Next. So what are the action taken so far? So we have the National Multi Sectorial Emergency Operations Center, which has been activated to level 3 is we have to mobilize all the resources at our disposal. This is the first video day we have to do. We cannot work on it other than apart from it. So I was appointed by the Honorable Minister to this as the resident manager, and we have started working since 28th of February.
So we have daily meetings, and if you go to our state website, you will see all our trips since the beginning of this outbreak. The incident action plan has been developed, which was approved by the Honorable Minister, and it was distributed. It has been distributed to all our partners, and we have already asked them to really move on the resource mobilization. Then the infrastructure and DOE, so contact tracing is ongoing. The Minister mentioned it this morning during the press briefing. Mentioned it now, and the SOMAS is being deployed to all the states with international airports. This SOMAS is just to capture the real-time events. We will sit down in our office and we'll be able to see what is actually happening in all these stations. Those people that are actually doing the work, and if you are not doing it, you can go and track it. Next. On the risk of mitigation, we have extensive transaction of Nigerians through cooperative engagement. As we say this morning, others have been engaging in telling them exactly what's so anytime you call the number, which is actually mentioned this morning during the press conference, you get them. The number of facilities is strengthened and expanded. So the stock staff, which the Honorable addressed this morning, we have baseline contact development, making use of this. So we have deployed them to all the states, especially for contact tracing and for surveillance activity. So the challenges. We have the association centers in the major cities. I think this was addressed by the Honorable Minister this morning. There were stretched human resource and cities. So we still need to employ more hands because some of us are being retired. Some of us are retiring anytime from now. So we need to bring in new experts to continue. There is such a stockpile of medical countermeasures. I think this was equally addressed by the Honorable Minister of Health this morning. Then they will have some panic. Go back. Okay. Yes, panic caused by spread of fake news by members of the public. And one of it was actually addressed by the Honorable Minister to this morning. Next. So these are our next steps, which I will want this honorable sitting to really look at, and we go ahead with it. So daily coordination meetings of national and state EOC will continue to do that. Deployment of such staff to Minister Mohammed International Airport, we did that yesterday, and they are resuming this morning. A training of additional healthcare workers starting from today. Our engagement with medical private sector is ongoing, and we continue to do that. Then continue responding to inquiries by the public and correcting mixed information. So this is our prayer, sir. Substantial, sustainable, stable funding for epidemic preparedness and response, which we have been enjoying and we continue to enjoy through the Honorable Minister of Health. Then the immediate national investments, which we really want this Honorable House to do or to address. The national stockpile of response commodities, the renovation and strengthening of treatment centers, digitalization of surveillance and contact tracing across the country. We are using SOMAS. We have started, but we still want to continue. Then for the states, investment in treatment centers with isolation units, then state emergencies and response fund to rapidly mobilize response to suspected case. Then we need to have budget line for the state PHOC. Honorable Minister, sir, as you have we have established public health emergency center in 23 states of the Federation, and we still want to continue in all the 36 states. So these are our prayers for this meeting. Thank you, and God bless.
Your permission, sir. So, riding on the presentation by Dr. Oladejo, there's some countries now with established community transmission. We're still trying to fully emergency contingency plans deployed and have been deployed, and we have had meetings with the public health emergency management teams at all the at the 4 airports, 3 airports. Port Harcourt is still pending. We'll have that meeting soon. Trainings have been held for Port Health Services staff at points of entry. This training has been coordinated by the World Health Organization and NCDC and our partners, ProHealth International and Justa Health Foundation. Now, the issue of surge staff, we had initial surge staffing response from the Lagos State Ministry of Health, and that became a moving target because we needed to continue with more detailed screening, and so they gave us additional staff. So in total, we have about 60 personnel supporting points of entry in Lagos from the Lagos State government. Now, the peculiarity of Lagos is that we have 2 arrival halls, and we have so many flights coming in and about 7,000 passengers arriving and departing. So in addition to the surge staff from Lagos State, we have resident doctors from the NFELTIP program, the Nigeria Field Epidemiology Program, and they are at the Aminu Kano Airport, Federal Capital Territory, and sorry, where's the third place now? Port Harcourt, yes. So, because of the evolving situation, I have asked that they please send residents to Lagos as well, so that we can continue to improve on the screening. Now, the passenger self-reporting forms since the last meeting have been printed and deployed, and as the minister said, it is even being amended. That is a work in progress. Now, those passenger screening forms are designed so that airlines will administer them to passengers on board in flight, so that there is no delay in facilitation, passenger compliance is higher, and we have some airlines that are still defaulting. Maybe I'll take that in challenges. Then, by way of persons of interest, those are the people coming from China and the other countries that had sustained human-to-human transmission. So the residents in particular are dealing with that. They follow up. They have a call log. They call the passengers to be sure that they are in good health or if they have any complaints. So we have distributed personal protective equipment and infection prevention materials to the major points of entry. Next slide, please. So by way of the process, the primary screening and secondary screening is still ongoing. We gave an overview at the last meeting. It hasn't changed, just that now it's more detailed. And in terms of the primary screening, we have had to assign personnel to specific tasks. So for those airlines that are still not giving forms, the plan is to have airlines at the door of the aircraft, and the forms will be filled before the passenger case definition for COVID-19, and then depending on what we find, they're either allowed to proceed or we have to ask them to go to be taken, because a lot of the staff are complaining about a field allowance. They want an incentive to be outside of their normal duties. We're battling that. We have some youth corpers at Abuja Airport who need to be supported because it's very difficult for them. If it's difficult for regularly employed staff, we can imagine it will be more difficult for them. So the surge staffing issue we need to address, and we need a more sustainable short-term and long-term staffing strategy to be designed, adopted, and employed, and that will be in line with the JEE recommendation to develop a workforce strategy for Port Health Services. Now we need to conclude on the issue, or move forward with the issue of isolation and temporary holding facilities at most POEs. Now, what we have is that in a lot of them, we have the space, so we're looking at temporary structures in the immediate future to make them functional so that that gap is closed. Then we need specialized equipment and staff for the transfer of ill travelers. Basically, specialized ambulances, and the staff need to be trained so that we can have safe transfer of suspect cases to the designated facilities. So there's a need for wider dissemination of information on COVID-19 to the traveling public and users of points of entry. Thank you, Honorable Minister of Information. You have a very elaborate strategy for the entire nation. But coming down to the traveling public and users of points of entry, we need to work with Federal Airports Authority and other stakeholders to have as robust a strategy as we have heard will be happening at the national level. So we need to design a sustainable short-term and long-term staffing strategy for port health services. We need dedicated means of traveler transportation at the points of entry, and we need to identify COVID-19 dedicated facilities in the states, 5 states, Kano, Rivers. Lagos is very comfortable. So Kano, Rivers, and Enugu, and Abuja. So I know that they have reached advanced stages and they are ready if we had a case now, most of them. Now, I want to use this opportunity to say that the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Ogun State, is here for obvious reasons. She was invited to this meeting at very short notice, and we're happy to have her here. She will make her presentation with the other states. And the Commissioner of Health, Lagos State, is represented by the Permanent Secretary, sir, and he joined us after the introductions. I also want to use this opportunity, sir, to say we're very lucky we have the World Bank in the house. They were not here at the last meeting. And we also have the West Africa Health Organization here. They have promised to help us with whatever we need. So at this point, I'll hand over the microphone to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Before we go to the next point, so that we don't lose the momentum, if there are any questions, observations. To the presenters. And I'm happy that the minister has taken that. It's good that this is accounted, because if people know the information, they know how to prevent themselves, then it will help all the efforts to stop this outbreak. For the port health, I think there's a need to see synchronization or harmonization of the information from those who enter the country vis-a-vis the data that is being collected by NCDC. How do we track these people? On the compliance issue, I leave Honorable Minister to you, but I think in terms of global threats like this, we need solidarity. And I think those who enter the country should enter in good faith and be able to comply so that they're able to report themselves wherever they are. Health security is for me, for you, for everyone globally. So there should be no, I could call it big and small brother. Every life is very important. It's precious, has no spare parts. And I think I really call everyone, let's cooperate. This is a battle for all of us. So if the government has put measures to trace where I come from and where I will go, let me volunteer to give this information. If we cooperate like that, then we are making progress. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Honourable Minister, I think whilst we restate our commitment as civil aviation to do all that is required of us in our airports and beyond, it is extremely very important that we know those airlines that are defaulting, because they are doing business in Nigeria by the courtesies of our
may not be here till the end of this program because
Okay, so I said that I'm representing the Honorable Minister of Interior. We had our meeting this morning, and it sounded a bit like the point of entry surveillance report that we just received from the Port Health. The role of the Nigerian Immigration Service is very, very significant, and we felt that they should be regarded as a frontline agency in this response, because immediately after Port Health, passengers make contact with the Nigerian Immigration Service officers, and their contact is much more significant than the Port Health staff who they just pass at a certain distance. The discussion we had this morning is that we would be having a more detailed discussion, or there would be a more detailed discussion between the Honorable Minister of Interior and the Minister of Health and the Minister of Information regarding how some other issues that we reviewed that we may not be able to discuss it. However, let me state that it is very important that we have complete passenger information of all passengers from their point of origin, not just at the transit stage. Because while many flights may not be coming directly from the countries that we have will have a very high index suspicion on right now, a lot of people might be coming to us through transit from other airlines, and we felt that the Nigerian Airport Authority should change its way of reporting advanced passenger information to start from their port of origin. We also reviewed all the flights coming into the country, and we have decided to sort of aggregate them based on whether the certain flights should be of more interest to us than others. We've identified about 6 flights that we believe there should be a deeper conversation as to how they should be treated going forward. And then, most importantly, the Honorable Minister has requested that we should look at how our frontline staff at the airports are kitted. Do we believe that they are adequately kitted and that what they are wearing is sufficient for them to come into contact with passengers who are coming from different parts of the world, and that the staff we have at the airport may not even be the very people that will be the purveyors of what they are wearing right now. And we reviewed that ourselves. The Nigerian Immigration Service has provided some rudimentary sort of PPE, which is just the normal face mask, and some of them are with gloves. But this morning we reviewed what we are doing, and we felt that there should be some professional look at how our officers at the airports are kitted and whether it should be graded, and the authorities that are responsible for PPE should be able to decide what is adequate for them. I will now I would invite the Comptroller General Nigerian Immigration Service to still talk about some other aspects that were discussed this morning, which later would feed into the national response plan. Thank you. CG Immigration.
But if you that essentially if you want, we need to commend the working relationship we have with the Ministry of Health. I cannot give the details because it's now public. I see you are making live broadcasts. I can say that we have been working closely with the Ministry of Health. We can be able to assist tracing after entry. This is key because some of the information we get, the person has already entered. So we can be able to in tracing. Due to the technology we have at the airport now, we can see, we have live picture of the person crossing our borders. We have the biometric details of the person crossing our borders. So a lot of things can be done with Ministry of Health. This is assured. But the greatest worry we have, honorable ministers, especially the Minister of Health, is about officers working on the front line. I have written to the Ministry of Health to advise or to give us equipment. We don't want to buy any equipment because we are not capable of knowing what to buy our officers. I could see a lot of tweeting at the social media space of what we put on our faces or what we don't do. That's why I want to appreciate the Ministry of Health advise us. Advise because
all persons arriving from China or any country that has a major outbreak is advised, if they have no symptoms at all,
You can follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. All visit www.
Donations are cleared immediately. As soon as they come into the country, you don't delay. You make sure that they are escorted from the seaport to where they are.
Yes. Oh. Now my dirty they smell like this. Now to throw away am quick. This kind smell fit make man sick. That woman throw away dirty for ground. Me sef go do the same this time around. Hold up.
See, to do this kind badness by the book, you make sure say person no dey look. And then you drop am nicely, bros. Nothing will happen. Trust me.
See, if you throw away dirty for ground, another person sef throw away dirty. Everybody come begin dey throw away dirty for ground. Everywhere go come dey smell. Gutter go block, road go block, and you wey like to dey dab. Na him say no more dab.
The risk involved. The
state of collaboration of all health services at these two borders.
I think there is no panic and there is no problem at the airport as far as we are concerned. Immigration is dealing with people. And I have seen the placement of the port health ahead of immigration in the airport. There's no problem. We will not disallow them to do their job. They are allowed to do the job. But what we are saying is that we are all at the same level with them. if there's a threat, ensure the threat is more, because from port health authorities you can snap from far distance, you can take measurement, you can take video, but for the officer, immigration officer, he has to have contact with a person. I think he's the only person at the point of entry who is coming closer to a passenger. You must interact. You must collect the passport. You must interview the person. So there is communication. If there is a possibility for us to get good advice, I don't want to jump into buying things. It doesn't make sense because you are not expert. Say you buy a hand glove, you buy this, you don't know what it is. That's why we wrote to you to give us the professional advice or the equipment responsible. So if we can be able to have that, it's okay. But we are ready to work and we'll continue to work with port health wherever we are operating. Because wherever it is a point of entry is a place where there is immigration and custom. That's the definition of point of entry for Nigeria. So as that place, we are ready to work with you. Thank you.
The Nigerian Customs Service is actually working very, very well with port health services. In fact, some of them are even occupying our quarters in some of the land borders. We provide it for them to enhance their performances at the land borders. Thank you very much.
personnel in the airports, customs service, aviation security, medical personnel, operations on the risk and preventive measures concerning this particular disease, coronavirus. The management has also provided PPEs for all the staff. Recently, 3 weeks ago, we had sensitization exercise here in Abuja by the Honorable Minister, Senator Hadis Reka, together with the Minister for Information, Minister of State Health, and the Minister who visited us, Hajia Sadia. That's the Minister in charge of Humanitarian Services, Disease Management, and Social Development. And like I said, PPEs have been provided. We have distributed to the important airports. All the airports are important, but some are more important than the others, the international ones. And we are not leaving the domestic ones out of this, because many of these passengers, when they come in, they still travel to through the domestic airports. And FAN is working in collaboration with Hotel Services and all other agencies in the airports to ensure that this disease does not have a foothold in the country. I believe that this recent one that we had will be the last. Amen. So we are not resting on our oars. We are still pushing forward to ensure coronavirus is kicked out of the country. However, we have some challenges, and that is arrival via land borders into the country by foreigners. Our staff in Maiduguri, they expressed this, that some people cross the borders to board aircrafts in the country. So I pray that the immigration and the PHS there will increase their surveillance in this respect. Then another thing is attitude of passengers. When our people come into the country, some of them walk away with the forms. Some don't even fill the forms at all. They cast aspersion on what we have on ground, as if where they came from or where they are coming from is better. And they don't appreciate what we have on ground. The VIPs, it has been mentioned. Then the airlines is another trouble. We change from today. And then I want to say dedication of the various health agencies to PHS functions. I mean the volunteers. Some of them are not there at the busy hours, the early hours of the day and evenings. They close, they come in the morning and close. Whereas the peak hours, their services are needed. I mean, to support the port health services. And I must say that FAN has cooperated, and we have provided the parking areas, some airports, and the secondary screening points. I pray they will make use of this. Thank you. Okay, they have all been administering the forms. Some of them don't even meet forms. Yes. All right, sir. We'll do so.
Honorable Minister of Health, Honorable Minister of Aviation, Information, all protocols observed. My name is Dr. Wilfred Hagai. I'm the General Manager of the Medical Standards of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, standing in for the DG NCA. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority is the regulatory body in the aviation ministry. We have been working closely with the Ministry of Health, especially the port health services at the point of entry. We, post-Ebola 2014, we have had an ongoing program, that is the collaborative arrangement for the prevention and management of public health events in aviation, CAPSCA. It's an ICAO program that works alongside with WHO. This program has been one of the pillars in which we have developed competencies and the plans we have at the airports in conjunction with some of our partners, especially ProHealth International and the US CDC. This has been ongoing. We've had master's training for most of the agencies at the airport, and the NCA, in line with the visions of the Minister of Aviation, has been working in that line. The COVID-19 that we're dealing with, when it started in December, the DG NCA issued a circular to all operators on the 23rd of January 2020. In the circular, he made it known about the ICAO standard recommended practices that were enshrined in our local regulations, that's the Nigerian Civil Aviation regulations, for airlines and airport operators to ensure strict compliance with the provisions of the regulations. And what we believe is that if, by what we are seeing, the index case might come through the airport, that is about 90% or so. We are of the view that if the crew members can pick this passenger on board, that is developing symptoms, showing symptoms, the protocols developed by IATA, they should be put in place by these airlines, identify the passenger, the pilot in command notifies the air traffic control of destination aerodrome, and the air traffic control notifies the port health services. By the time the plane touches down, the plane is parked in a separate place, and that is contained. It doesn't come into the terminal building. That is the plan that we have been practicing. We've done demonstrations, we've done simulations over time. So this circular was issued out on the 23rd of January before the COVID-19 was declared a fake. Now, once we had an index case in the country, the DGNCA once again issued another circular yesterday, actually a press statement on the 1st of March 2020. And he is asking for the operators to heed and the travelers to heed the advice of the port health services. We have been informed of some airlines that are not sharing the forms on board, and that is being taken up with this very strong letter that is written to the airlines for strict compliance, or else they will be penalized. The minister is here, and the BASA that we have with them also will have some agreement on that in terms of public health for Nigeria. Going into the practices, we work with both the public emergency management teams at the different points of entry. We also worked with the port health services on the designation of the points of entry. This designation is very important by the WHO, and that is one plus for this country. And we will continue to work alongside with the port health services. We support them seriously, and whatever is required of the Celebration Authority, we are ready to work day in, day out to ensure that the borders of Nigeria are secured against this COVID-19. Thank you very much.
No, sir. I think we can go into this.
We'd like to get response from Port Health and from NCDC on all the comments before we go on to the next one.
Thank you very much, sir. Honorable Minister. I'm still standing on the...
Yeah, another border participant, please, quarantine. As our partner at the border. Yes.
The Honorable Ministers, Permanent Secretaries. Sir, mine is like an appeal that's coming from Nigeria Commercial Quarantine Service, that we should look at the component of the animal stockpile as well. Nothing has been done up to now. We make the complaint the other time that we should be considered in the procurement processes of the PPE and possibly the disinfectants. Then the second issue we made mention was the issue of the holding areas. Should there be any reason to be able to handle animals now that will be coming in, maybe infected or contaminated products? So we are still appealing to the Minister of Aviation that we need a space. Up to now, we don't have a space that we can use to contain animals for now, sir. Thank you, sir. To hold animals, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, the Honorable Minister, sir. The question asked by Dr. Clement was actually dealt with this morning by the Honorable Minister. We have 19 contacts from Lagos and 39 from Ogun. And I told you this morning that we have what we call SOMAS, is software that is being deployed to both states to be able to get ODK you are mentioning and be able to get all the necessary information on this. And this is a real-time data management. As they are collecting the data, we are seeing it, in our office, and we are managing it accordingly. And then, as for the rumor, the Honourable Minister equally dealt with it this morning, and we have a unit in our agency that is actually working on rumor management of rumor. We have risk communication unit that does that. I think the other one is for the PHS. I think it was a comment from you about our collaboration with PHS, and we have been having a very effective and good collaboration. Most of our residents from MFETIP are working at the international airport, and they are actually collaborating together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, by way of working together, I think you said, Dr. Asa, that we should harmonize our data. We're doing that because FLT residents are using ODK for data collection at the airport. So, going further, the Secretariat for the National Public Health Emergency Contingency Plan for points of entry has been set up, so the data will also go from there directly to NCDC. So we are sharing data at this point. Now we need information at the airport to be relayed. We'll develop the messages. But with respect to the request from immigration about appropriate PPE, well, the consensus is that masks and gloves will suffice because more often than not, the passengers are technically breathing down on the staff. So I believe with masks and gloves, they should be adequately protected. But I stand to be corrected. We've got World Health Organization in the house, and we've got senior colleagues in the house from the teaching hospitals, so they may want to correct that, the infection prevention control specialists. So I will leave that open, and they may want to respond to that. With respect to the surge staff, we will have to redevelop a terms of reference for them working with us. Now, we had an initial one, which is that they're from government agencies, so they're bound by extant public service rules. So we're going to look into that. We want their rosters, we want an attendance register, and they will be liable just as our staff are liable for any gaps that occur going forward. So we will have to harmonize the positions, because for some of them, they probably are not taking this seriously. It's not their regular schedule. So we need to address that, and we will look into that, because otherwise the purpose of their collaborating with us will be defeated and we will not make progress. So thanks to Customs for the facilities they allow us to use. That is correct. So I think I have addressed the issues that were raised for Port Health, sir, unless there are any other things I've missed.
Thank you. Before we go on to the states, commissioners, just one quick point. I have heard that passengers